We're live. What's up? What's up? What's up? Hope I'm not going to mess this up too bad in trying to scoot this stuff over and get some new things on the wall. I moved a lot of my Z-Man products. If you can tell, I've essentially moved one row of my Z-Man stuff, and I'm scooting everything over. We could talk about bait storage a little bit tonight if you'd like, but yeah, just adding a few pegs to the wall and changing up where I've got a couple of these things. Move some of these Kitech baits. How are you guys doing tonight? Matthias, what up, dude? Fisho, Queensland. Got so much Z-Man? Yeah, man. Me too. And honestly, this is only a small portion of it. You know, I've got a couple other of these containers that I use that are full of them. I've also got this guy. So, you know, I've got a lot of Z-Man too, man. Pretty much all of their freshwater products and some of their saltwater products too. Ron Holly in the building. What's up, man? How you doing tonight? Oh boy. Simon, what's up, man? How are you doing? Hope you guys are all doing well. I'm just adding a couple things to the wall here. Some of these baits just don't really have like a home, you know. Got a whole bunch of, you know, power bait worms that I know my connection might be a little unstable this evening, but tell me if you can hear me. Simon says bales of hay. Many bales of hay? How many? But on a fun note, I went to Bass Pro Shops on Friday. Right on, man. Did you get anything from BPS? What'd you get, Simon? All right. This is going to be done in just a minute, guys. Not trying to take the whole stream. Just to reorganize the wall ever so slightly. Just scooted over this one row here so that under the Reaction Innovations, I've got all my Kitech stuff. You know, all the way to the bottom. And you guys never really see this stuff down here. But anyway, I got my swim baits up top. You guys don't usually see that stuff either. So Simon says, too many baits. Yes, I got a Ned rig set. We'll send you an email with what I got. Right on, man. Good for you. Yeah, if you guys are not on the Ned rig game already, you need to be. I've got way too many Ned rig baits, and I'm a fan of a lot of them. We'll do another stream again, specifically about Ned rig baits another time. But there's a lot of good new products on the market, a lot of old good products on the market, especially for the Ned rig. So that's a technique that has really blown up, and I know I need to make more videos about it, just because the few that I've made have been so popular. Arguably the most popular videos on my channel. So speaking of, here's an awesome Ned rig bait, sleeper. I've got it in 4 colors now. Simon says he spent $100 at BPS. Dang, dude. Lance Stevens, don't have any Ned rigs. Should I look into them? Yeah, dude. Yeah. Lance, I have a box of 50 plus Ned rig hooks, and I've probably got 10 or more packs of hooks that are not in that box, that are just laying around and that are different brands. And I'm telling you right now that if you're not fishing the Ned rig, you're missing out big time. It is not only perhaps the best way to catch fish in numbers. If you're just trying to get bites, it'll catch multiple species, not just bass. But it's not just a small fish bait, so you will catch big fish on it too. So if you're not fishing it, you're missing out, Lance. You got to get on it ASAP. And if you'd like, we could do kind of one of the next streams on Ned rig baits specifically, and I can break them down for you guys because there's some things you want to look for in Ned rig baits, depending on how you're going to fish it. There are a few different ways to retrieve a bait like that, which is just a super simple soft plastic stick bait style worm that's ballpark 2.5 to 3 inches long, and you're rigging it on a little jig head. So it's the old jig worm technique that has been around forever, seemingly, but people just don't fish it as much, or haven't until recently. And what'd you say, Simon? That is my Yum Pack, the color you just showed? What you talking about, Willis? The craw and just the Ned Dinger are both awesome baits. Yeah, so Lance, if you're just getting into Ned rig fishing, I would go Z-Man. Okay, they're the ones who really originated the technique, or popularized it, I should say. And so the original bait is that finesse TRD. Okay, the turd, if you will. And there's a few reasons that you want to get this bait as your first Ned rig bait. There are other variations that are very similar, like this TRD Ticklers, and a bunch of others. But the TRD is the most simple and to the point. This is the Ned rig, and now there's different variations and spin-offs like you wouldn't believe. But this is 2.75 inches. It is stretchy because it's made from Elastec, which, sure, durability is the most obvious thing. This thing's going to last a long time. After fish keep catching it and it gets tangled up on the hook, you can take it off, re-rig it, and it doesn't break down. So you can catch like 100 fish on each one of these baits. So a pack of 6 or 8, a pack of 8 will last you a long time. So yeah, I would just look into getting a pack of the finesse TRDs. Stick to like a green pumpkin or a hot snakes, or this is the copper truce color, and just get a pack of the finesse shrooms jig heads, and they're very basic. If I can manage to pull one out without. So here's what it looks like. Just a very simple. I prefer a smaller weight, either the 1/16th, or Z-Man makes it in a 1/15th, or the 1/10 ounce is probably my most common size that I use. Don't go heavier than that. You're going to be tempted to throw heavier weights. So 1/10 ounce or 1/16th, 1/15th with a pack of finesse TRDs is going to get you started. Elastec is not just stretchy, but it's buoyant. So Lance, those baits are going to stand straight up when you kill it on bottom. It's going to stand with that tail straight up. A lot of other baits, if you just took a stick bait, a Senko, and cut it in half and rigged it on one of these hooks, you're gonna pop it or cast it out. It's gonna hit the bottom and lay down flat, just totally dead. motionless. Brian Waterman, what's up, man? Good to see you. Simon, yeah, the TRD. This is called soft green pumpkin. Yum is making some colors that are really cool. So I really like the soft green pumpkin. Here it is in the craw. And then I also really like the soft, or they call it dark brown, red brown. Really natural reddish color. So they've also got peanut butter and jelly and some other some good colors. So soft green pumpkin's a good one, man. Lance, the line that you're going to use for Ned rigs is typically a braided line to a fluorocarbon leader, but you could throw it on straight fluorocarbon if you want, but typically the fluorocarbon itself should be 6 or 8 pounds in test. So I like to throw 15 or 20 pound braided main line to a usually 8 pound fluorocarbon leader. Yeah, so I use either Power Pro or Suffix 832, kind of a high vis braid. It helps to be able to see your line in the water and detect subtle bites, because the Ned rig is a kind of no feel type of technique. A lot of the time, you're going to get a ton of your bites on the initial fall. So you're going to cast it out there. You don't want to make long bomb casts. That's a short kind of 15, 20 yard type of deal, so that you're more accurate. And then don't close the bail. Let it fall on slack, and you'll get bit on the fall a lot of the time. And then sometimes you want to let it hit bottom, sometimes not, depending on where your fish are setting up. And then there's a bunch of different ways to retrieve it. Whether you want to just dead stick it, or you want to hop it, or you want to slow reel it, or kind of swim it and kill it. There are a lot of different things to do. 8 pound mono could work, Ron. I don't throw a light mono like that most of the time. Sometimes I'll throw like 4 pound mono on some of my ultralight setups, but no, man, usually I don't. If I'm throwing mono, I'm stepping up, to 10 or 12 pound on my leaders for, say, top waters, or even heavier than that if I'm going, on swim baits or things like that. Brian says, you got me to buy a Spro Rat 40 in the morning dawn. That thing is crazy looking. My wife's seen it and just laughed at me. Yes, Brian, my man. That is a hell of a bait, dude. It's Ron Holly, too, who's in the building and hates this bait. So I love that you got it, man. And this one goes out to you, Ron Holly. Oh, morning dawn. Rats, baby, rats. Purple rats. So, it's embarrassing to admit that this is like $80 worth of baits right here, because these are not cheap. This big rat is like a $30 bait, and I want to say that these guys are 25 or so, but the size 40 rat is one of my big confidence topwater baits. So the size 50 is gigantic. This thing weighs like 2 ounces and is like a full-size rat. Okay, the size 40 is significantly smaller in profile and in size and in weight. So this thing weighs more like an ounce and is very castable on a wide variety of gear. And it's also, just because the profile is smaller from underneath, a lot more fish will bite it. And so size 40, in my opinion, is the best middle ground for two. but this guy weighs like, a half an ounce, and this is going to be in the same ballpark as like a Super Spook Junior, um, like your small 4-inch topwater baits that have two trebles on them, that you'll throw on more of a spinning rod. The Rat 30 is good for that. So the Rat 40 is awesome, as like a really good. I don't think you will be disappointed. Brian asks, do I ever fish the purple tail? And the answer is no, not really. I've tried it before to see if it makes a difference. Because sure, the bottom of the bait is natural. As much as Ron Holly is going to freak out about the fact that this is purple and blue and yellow, yes, you could change out the tail to the purple and it looked just a little bit more natural, in terms of the color and the profile, the silhouette that it's going to give. But no, I have not switched them out. Only thing is that you'll notice, as you start to work the bait out, this joint will get very loose. So you can see this tail is nearing the end of its life. You can't quite see the fibers there, but it's starting to wear out. So I'd say I've got a few more fish on this tail before I'm going to be forced to switch it out. And the diameter of the tail on the 30 is totally different. So you can't swap the tails out. You have to use the backup tail that it came with. We don't need to go down this rabbit hole, if you will, but the Savage Gear rat actually has this tail that you can remove rather easily and replace with like an actual soft plastic worm. So in some ways I prefer the tail design of this Savage Gear a little bit better than the Spro, but the Spro just swims so well and it's got an amazing sound and action that that my fish at least can't help themselves. So I wish you the best with that lure, Brian, and I hope you really enjoy it. Darren says, yo, went to the Jersey Shore and stopped by BPS in Atlantic City. Right on, man. I've heard that BPS is pretty sick. How was it? Brian says, was thinking about picking up an Abu Black Max winch bait caster for the Rat. Sure, I don't think you really need a winch bait caster for a topwater Rat because, to be honest, it's not necessary. But that is a good value reel, so you might as well, because you could probably use that bait caster for other techniques as well. But as I said, you don't really need a dedicated setup for the Rat because it weighs about an ounce, right? You can throw it on a standard medium heavy. You just need to make sure that your reel is spooled up properly, and that you're throwing braid, more like 40, 50, or 65-pound braid, either straight braid, which is often my preference, or you're throwing it to a monofilament leader, just so that you're not tangling as much with the hooks and your line. But 5-4-1 ratio and a deeper reel for casting, yeah, in my opinion, that's not super necessary, Brian. A slightly longer casting helps, but no, man, as I said, you really don't need that. You can crawl a bait on a 7-to-1 gear ratio. Quite honestly, you do not need a bait caster for topwater specifically. If I were you, I'd wait until you need gear specifically for swim baits or for crank baits, or for jerk baits or different topwater. So jerk baits and topwaters specifically that you're going to do some walking. the rod matters more than the reel. But for big swim baits and for crankbaits, that's when you definitely want to go to that slower gear ratio that you're talking about, and the deeper reel as well. So just wait till you need it for swim baits, and then do it that way, and then you can just use that same reel for the rat if you want to down the road. But quite honestly, I would do it backwards, because if if you told me right now that instead of buying the rat 40, you bought the rat 50, and you didn't have the proper gear to throw this thing on, that would be one thing. Um, but that's not the case, man. So you're not going to overpower a medium heavy rod with that rat 40. So no, save your money for now, man. Hey, thanks, Ron. Appreciate you, bro. All right, guys, let's talk about something else. Got a little bag full of baits here that need to be reorganized, put in their home. If you saw, I just posted a picture of the Booyah Prank today on Instagram. I still am not totally sure how I feel about this bait. I think it's an awesome idea. I haven't committed to really getting good with this bait yet. This is a very strange concept where it's a topwater popper with a crankbait lip on it. And as you can see, that thing is angled to where it's going to dive actually a few feet deep. It's not straight down, so this is not a wake bait, but rather a crankbait. If you straight retrieve this thing, it's going to dive 1 to 3 feet deep. And if you work it like a popper, bloop, it's going to still work like a popper. It's just going to go a little bit deeper under the water than a normal popper would when you pop it. But it's still super buoyant, lightweight, everything just like a popper. So funky bait there. Have any of you guys ever thrown the Booyah Prank before? Speaking of poppers, here's one that I pulled out of my box to see if I could tell. I put it in the pool in the backyard and threw my GoPro underwater to see if, listen to that. Can you guys hear that? So this bait makes a chirping sound. This is a Livingston Lures popper. So potentially a little gimmicky because it has an electronic deal in there that makes bait fish sounds. So it makes the sound of a distressed bait fish as it's just sitting there. So it's really interesting technology. In my opinion, generally not worth the price for what they charge for each of their baits, in the $10 to $15 range. But some baits, I think, could have a lot more practicality where you're going to let the bait stay still, like a topwater popper, a walking bait, a jerk bait. Make a whole lot more sense, in my opinion, than to say throw a crankbait or something that's going to be more constantly moving. What do you know? I have another rat in here for you, Ron. This guy, the tail is also wearing out. I've been throwing this guy a lot. Not sure if you can tell how much that head has just gotten crushed, but yeah, they're eating this color too. I'm sure you like this color a lot more, Ron. But again, that's the size 30. I throw this on my spinning rod, and I was actually swapping it back and forth with this Berkeley Chapo in the 90. This is the one that Riley sent me. This is the Maverick color that Berkeley makes. It's all black with an orange throat, and there's actually a little bit of like black flake built into, or red flake built into the black paint. And I caught a good 10 or 12 fish on this, and the paint has not even budged whatsoever. So I'm actually really impressed with that so far. We've talked about the Chapo a few times before, and I really like this 90 size. It's the first one that I tried, and it impressed me, a year or two ago. And then I got the 120 earlier this year. I have it in a few sizes, and it doesn't fish the same. Same goes for the Whopper Plopper. Each size of the bait fishes very differently, but my impressions of the 90 have been a lot better than the 120 for the Chapo. So I'm really curious to try that middle 105 size, because this is their smaller, like half-ounce size, and then the 120 is closer to like an ounce and a half. So I want to try the middle 105. Yeah, Ron, it is a little bit boring, but this is a killer night fishing bait, and just low light in general. I agree. It's not the most flashy, not super cool, but it's a good one, dude. I can show you the other colors if you'd like. Do you like a chrome bait, Ron? So again, that's that 120 size, which next to the 90, it dwarfs it. I mean, it's way bigger. So, yow. Berkeley Fusion 19 hooks are good. Riley also sent me this MF shad color. It's this faded. It's a shad color, but it's not shiny. It's matte. So I'm a big fan of matte finishes. As you can see, that tail is cloudy. This tail is chrome. So I like that they paint the tails where the Whopper Plopper tail, they rarely really do much to it. So anyway, we could talk about ploppers for days. Ron, I don't get you, bro. You hate the flashy colors. You think the natural ones are boring. What kind of colors do you like, Ron? Curious to know. Gosh, walking baits have been kind of have been my weak spot the last couple of months in terms of what I've spent my money on, and just recently saw one of the saltwater Super Spook Juniors in the bone color at my local Cabela's, and couldn't help myself but scoop it up. I really prefer the saltwater spook, just because it's so freaking durable. I like the regular one too. Don't get me wrong, but there's something about the saltwater version that's just a little bit better, especially that bone. The eyes and the finish on it just being a little bit more glossy than painted. So the Super Spook Junior is an underrated bait, but it's a little bit plain Jane, in my opinion. Ron, don't worry about it, man. Why don't you ask some questions, man? 9 people in here, 9 thumbs up. Guys, appreciate y'all. We're not even talking about anything specific, and I'd be happy to if you want to. Darren says, I saw a BPS brand 2-prop Whopper Plopper. Yeah, man. I think I got one. It's funny that I knew exactly where it was. Here's that bait you're talking about, Darren. You can see XPS on the top of the bait. What's weird about this is you're right. It's a double plopper, and they call it the double down plopper. That's the name of the bait, and that's because the head rotates and the tail. So I don't quite know how I feel about this bait. They don't charge as much as the Whopper Plopper, but yeah, kind of an interesting concept there to have multiple props on a Whopper Plopper style bait. So I can't give you an exact review on it, but I'll tell you that I bought it and a couple of other Whopper Plopper knockoffs. This one was from China. I bought this on like the Wish app for like $1. As you can see, the wire is like bent straight out of the pack, and I think the only reason that I really did that is that I was reached out to by this company on Instagram who makes these fake ploppers, and they said, "Would you review these products if we send them to you?" And I said, "Sure, even if they suck." They said, "Yeah, just be honest, leave a review." So I said, "Fine," and I did, and I left a pretty brutal review. But here's the thing: the paint jobs look pretty cool on these baits. Like, there's not a Whopper Plopper that comes in this wicked rainbow trout pattern. I really like that. You know, or how about this like citrus shad that's a little bit more aggressive than, you know, the river to sea I like it color. And that perch I just showed you, I was like, okay, I'll check them out. Sure enough, no, man, they suck. They're really poorly made. They're inconsistent. That's the thing. So I just wouldn't trust it, man. Darren, I would just stick to River to Sea or the Berkeley Chapo. The other one that I do have and can't quite vouch for because you guys just saw me buy it just earlier this summer is the Savage Gear Smash Tail. And this bait is expensive. It's well made. There's a ton of attention to detail in this bait. It's got a weighted tail and a whole bunch of detail with the fins and the shape of the bait. Very realistic looking, but generally speaking, like I said with the Ned rig, I think with these kinds of techniques, what you need to do is just start with the original. If you don't already have a Whopper Plopper, that's what you need to do. Don't go down the double down plopper rabbit hole. Yak Angler 419 says, does anyone fish the Mojo rig? Yes, some, but I don't have Mojo specific weights. So just a split shot rig, yeah. It's super effective in grass. So it's a great summer fishing bait, a great pond fishing bait, a good way to keep your rig up on top of and easily come through the grass. If you're a soft plastic fisherman and you fish shallow water grass, that's a good bait. Good rig, I should say. Thanks for bringing it up, man. Do you fish the Mojo rig? Darren says, doesn't the water trail the same? No, it definitely doesn't, Darren. So it's not just about the way that it looks from below to the fish. Like, the disturbance is one thing, right? The bait coming across the surface and leaving a trail, as you say. But in my opinion, what plays a bigger factor is the sound. And where you fish it will affect how loud that bait is. So if you fish a Whopper Plopper over a riprap bank, for example, I have a lot more success fishing it there than I do over, grass flats, for example. I also have a lot of success fishing a Whopper Plopper over the same spots that I would fish like a popper. So I'll make the the cast further past the piece of cover and bring it right through, on kind of a stop and go retrieve. And smaller ploppers have more subtle sounds to them. Bigger ploppers have much more aggressive sounds. So it's a bigger profile and a much louder sound. Some of them have rattles in them and some do not. So there's a little bit more going on than just a bubble trail, Darren, if we're being honest. You see, I got 3 whopper ploppers, one like black, one like translucent, and a frog color. Yeah, man, that's good. Kind of covers most of your bases there. Would you only rather fish soft plastics or only hard baits? Soft plastics, man. I think I'd go soft plastics. I think there's just a little bit more that you can do with the baits to manipulate them, and that's more fun to me, to play around with presentations and customize. So, yep, I've gotten a whole lot more into hard baits in the last year or two, just trying to fill out my collection, my tackle boxes, get to know different manufacturers, different baits specifically. What makes one different than another? What makes one better than another? So, yeah, I'm interested in both, but if I had to choose, I think I'd go soft plastics, man. What about you? Ron says, have you fished an Osmo or a Relic? No, man. Tell me what an Osmo is. Oh. Okay, I've seen the Osmo. And honestly, it just looks like another hog to me. Now, it's a little bit fancied up, right? Like, it looks a little bit wild with its like legs, a little bit more aggressive than like a brush hog or a man bear pig or a lizard would be. But it's the same style bait, quite honestly. I don't throw those very often. I know that a brush hog is a not a sleeper bait, super popular, kind of classic bait, and I'll throw the man bear pig, which has a flatter bottom. It has the body style more like a beaver. I'll throw that on a swing head because I like the way that it lays and swims on bottom. Now, that Osmo, I don't know. When I see baits like that, I just think Texas rig. But a bait like this, I think swing head. It's got a longer profile and narrower, and it's flat on bottom. So this thing will just crawl on bottom very well. Perfect for that biffle hard head, swing head style presentation. What's the Relic, Ron? Yeah, I like that, man. That you can customize a bait by pulling off some of those appendages. So it changes from being a brush hog to more of a standard creature bait. But it definitely looks funky, man. I'm not quite sure about that. What's that Relic, bro? Let me look that up. The Riot Baits Relic. No, dude. The Riot Baits Relic. That reminds me of, say, like a Yamamoto double tail grub with the skirt. What do they call it? They call it a the hula grub. So I definitely think that's a good bait, man. and I think Riot Baits makes good soft plastics. I just don't throw them personally, so no real reason not to give it a shot. But I personally have some of the Yamamoto baits myself. I think I've got some close here. And here's the closest thing to what you just mentioned with that relic, the Yamamoto double-tailed hula grub. So this is the hula part up here that essentially allows you to fish this thing on just a jig head, and this skirt acts like a jig skirt in the water. It pulses extremely well, and these double tails swim super easily. This is a bait that, for whatever reason, not a lot of people talk about, but especially in cold water, this guy's an absolute sleeper on the back of a jig. As I said, with the hula, I prefer it on just a jig head, because otherwise, if you're throwing it on a jig, you don't need the hula skirt. In fact, you should just get the double tail grubs, because I think you get twice as many in a pack without the hula skirt. So either way, the Yamamoto double tail grub is killer. These tails kick with almost no effort. It's unbelievable. Honestly, I was wanting to compare it to, say, the stroker craw, which I just hung up here. Over here, I've got one of them rigged up right now. Let's see if I can show you. So this is a summer swim jig, California swim jig by Dirty Jigs. This is a swim jig that I like to throw in slightly deeper water or heavier cover. This has a very thick, heavy wire hook, but the jig is not why I wanted to show you this, but rather the trailer. This is a 6 cents stroker craw, and I love that this bait has a beaver style body, but a double tail grub situation down below. These things kick really well, but as you can see, the plastic is not super thin, so these tails are not going to pull off nearly as easily when you get short strikes. But as a swim jig trailer in the summer, this new 6 cents stroker craw is killer. The action is really good, but it is speed sensitive. I just showed you the plastic is not very thin, so you can't crawl this thing and expect the tails to kick very well. So in my opinion, it's a medium or faster speed retrieve, but really good bait there on the back of a swim jig, chatterbait, whatever you're going to do if you're going to swim the bait a little bit quicker. So the only thing that I've noticed about this 6 cents soft plastic so far is that if you leave it out and like sitting somewhere, it will almost just melt on itself, and it'll leave residue. Like if you leave it, if I just left it on the ground here on the concrete in my basement, and then I come back tomorrow and pick it up, it will have left like a stain on the concrete. And so I don't know what they make this soft plastic out of, but it's a little bit different, and I'm not totally sure about how I feel about that. Darren says, can you tell me tips on underspins? Starting to get into them. Yeah, man. I like weedless underspins personally a lot. So this is not a great example to show you because this is a massive bait, but this is just the general concept. The owner flashy swimmer, for example, this is the 5/0. This isn't. It's awesome. Okay, you can rig it on so many different things. This right here is the trocar version of the same thing, the Flashy Swimmer, the trocar swim blade, and this is the 5/0. I've got it rigged here on. This is a almost 6-inch swim bait, the Jackal Rhythm Wave, and what I really like is that it maintains a weedless profile, but still gives you all the benefits of the underspin of the spinner bait, and hookup ratio is not a problem on these hooks. So I am a huge fan of these guys as opposed to throwing, an underspin with an exposed jig head. So to each his own. Both are good, but I just haven't found many that I really like, and I find that the price is not quite worth it. So the 6 Sense Divine Underspin is newer and is a good one for sure. But let me give you a little secret here. You can buy underspin blades, Darren, and you should. And that is my personal, probably biggest recommendation. Of course, you could buy a couple packs of the Owner Flashy Swimmer. This is the Gold Colorado in the 3/0 on a little 3.8-inch, power bait power swimmer. Super versatile setup right here, but you do pay a little bit more. I want to say you're paying anywhere from $2 to $5 a hook for the underspin hooks. So let me show you real quick. Gosh, I don't even keep my terminal box over here anymore. But Darren, as I said, there are a lot of companies making these now. This one's gold, this one's silver. These ones specifically are made by a company called Pro Point Lures. You can find them on Tackle Warehouse. Okay, and here's the deal: is it's got a screw-in blade to it. So literally, you just screw it into the belly of any soft plastic. So for example, I've got this big swim bait here. This is the new Strike King Rage Swimmer in their, well, it's not a new Rage Swimmer. It's a new size. They're 575. And this is rigged on a 6 Sense Divine swim bait head. This is the 5/0 3/8 ounce version, and it's a great swim bait rigged like this. But what I'll do, instead of buying the Divine Underspin for $5 a pop, I'll buy a pack of jig heads for 3 for $5, and I'll buy a pack of these underspin blades. And I want to say these come in a 2-pack for like $4, so they're not super cheap. $2 per blade. But check out what this does. I just twisted it in a couple times, and voila, we've got the underspin right there. And if I don't like it placed right there, I could move it back in the bait, or I could move it up to the front if you want it to look a little bit more like a traditional underspin, where that blade is closer to under the head and under the hook. You can move it up like that. So really, really like these underspin blades. And the cool thing is, you can put it in and take it out whenever you want. So start with the swim bait. If they're not biting it, or you see some schooling action, go ahead and put the blade on. If they stop eating it that way, if the blade is too much, you can simply remove it and fish the same swim bait with a more subtle presentation without having to cut it off and rig on something completely different that costs you a separate $5 or more for the rig. So Darren, that would be my first. These ones. And the other ones that I really like to throw are made by Z-Man. and they're brand new, and they're called the TRD Spins. So here they are, and they come 3 to a pack, and are like $5. But they've got the double plastic barb keeper that will easily go into a Laztec, and will also work really well in standard soft plastics. It's just when you pull it out, it's going to tear the plastic up a little bit more than like with that screw-in style. So I use both. Darren, you can buy the blades. As I said, Pro Point Lures on Tackle Warehouse. They're a small company, local in California, so that's why they're sold from Tackle Warehouse. But these Z-Man ones, dude, discount tackle. Use my code, or use my link rather, if you want. Send me a DM, and I'll shoot you a link to those over at Discount Tackle, and you can just make a point to add it to a list of things to get from Discount Tackle, and get them sometime sooner than later. So that would be my recommendation, is going with the spin blades first, and just playing around with it, you know. Of course, Flashy Swimmer or the Trocar swim blades are also great options, but more so for fishing weedless specifically. So yeah, there's advantages to both. The owner Flashy Swimmers are made heavy wire hook. They're made for big swim baits specifically, so that's what I prefer to use them for. If I'm wanting an underspin as just a little extra flash, then I really like those accessories. I thought I had a chatterbait to show you guys, but I guess it's still rigged on my rod. And so what I did was take a jackhammer chatterbait, you know, in this Brett's bluegill color, and I took one of these Magnum Rage bugs and cut it down the middle, and then rigged it as the trailer on my chatterbait, and then put one of those underspin blades under the belly. So I had an underspin jackhammer chatterbait with a unique trailer, and that thing got munched. So really cool deal, man. Let me know if you have other questions about it, but I didn't mean to come on here and talk about underspins forever. Really, really useful in the fall when the school, or when the fish are schooling up, Darren. But otherwise, you know, it's just like a spinnerbait, man. The added flash is going to give the look of, you know, schooling bait fish, of a pod of fish. It's going to get the interest of a bass or a predator fish, because it's going to look like an easier meal where they can get more bang for their buck, more food for their energy, if you will. Brian Waterman, I'm sorry I did not see your comment until now. What's your favorite bait from a not so known name brand? Interesting. I might have to think about that one, dude. That's a great question. Wow. I'll give you two right now, okay? And I'm okay saying these right now because it's in the middle of this stream, and there's only 8 people on here right now. You guys probably aren't going to shout it from the rooftops or anything, but that's a great question, so I'm going to give you the answer. Okay? Brian, are you still in here, Brian? Tell me you're still in here and you want to hear the answer to that question, because if you are, I'll tell you. But if not, I don't want to go spilling beans unnecessarily, dude. Kenyon Strange, what up, bro? Hope you're doing well. All right, Brian, I'm going to tell you, dude. First is in the chatterbait category. As you can see, I've moved my chatterbaits into these smaller boxes, and I've got 2 of them filled up with chatterbaits, like to the brim. But what I like about these containers is that for jigs, they're smaller profile, so your stuff doesn't slide around nearly as much, and you can buy these in packs of 4 for less than $10. So anyway, the bait. Oh, am I gonna show you? All right. Okay. It's in the bottom here, and I've showed it to you guys before. I don't know that you're going to be able to find it easily because the one time that I made a big stink out of it, I kind of got in trouble. And this guy here is a soft blade chatterbait. And as you can see, it does have a direct blade to head connection. So that is not Z-Man approved. And the reason that this bait exists is because it is not made in the U.S. or sold in the U.S. This is a Japanese domestic market product only. And as you can tell, the skirt is textured and super unique. The hook is smaller than is typical on a lot of chatterbaits, but still has a double wire keeper and a really sharp hook. Tons of detail on the head. It's got a, the weight is printed on the bottom, as we all like to have. The head shape is a little unique. And yeah, this is like an $18 chatterbait, and it is called the Keisu Tranquil. Okay, and I happen to have a fresh one in the box, and I'm going to show it to you for a second. Okay, that's what she looks like. As you can see, I got this for $18, and yeah, as I said, I made a mistake posting about this bait and how cool it was and where I got it, and then that company immediately got in trouble. Not this company who makes it, but the company that sold it to me. So you guys could probably guess, there's only a couple of companies here domestically that really sell a lot of JDM products, and yeah, sadly it was one of them. So they told me to immediately remove all of that information, and I did, but by then it was too late. So they got slapped on the wrist by Z-Man, and are no longer allowed to sell that bait, so they don't. But yeah, check this out, guys. Little divine underspin. I saw Ben Milliken actually made one of these the other day and fished it and had a lot of success on it. Just take a divine swim bait head and put one of these chatterbait blades from Queen Tackle on there. Queen Tackle switchblade. I've showed you guys that before. I also made one with the redfish eye jig head from Z-Man. They're making and releasing a chatterbait that is this on the market like in the next couple months. Just released it at iCast. So the Keisu Isana, or Keisu Tranquil, is one of them, Brian. And the other is also a JDM bait, but it's in the jerkbait family. These are all JDM jerkbaits. This is my box of nice jerks, and here's the bait. Nobody throws it here, and that's because it is still primarily a Japanese bait, and so you can't find this bait readily available in the U.S., and it's a little different than what most people here in the U.S. are throwing. So in Japan, as you know, there are some techniques that are a little bit ahead of what we're doing here in the U.S. And this jerkbait here is like a $22 jerkbait. I got it cheaper than that. So there's a reason, that I decided to pick a couple of these up, and it's because they were on sale and I already had my eye on them. But as you can see, this tail just flattens off completely. As you can see, the bait is flat on bottom, flat on the sides, and most importantly, this bait floats. This is a floating jerk bait that has a very aggressive action, and yeah, I will just say floating jerk baits are underrated and underfished. So this is the ISM Raver 115. Okay, Raver 115 floating. ISM stands for Infinite Seed Maker. ISM is a popular JDM lure manufacturer, not as popular here in the U.S. They're really just starting to put out more of their baits here in the U.S. There are some companies like that. Actually, a number of companies like that. But those would be probably two at the top of my list of lesser-known companies, lesser-known baits that I really like. So, what other questions do you guys have? Ron says, what creature baits give the best action? So the concept of a creature bait, Ron, is pretty broad, but when I think of a creature bait, I usually want to go to a bug style bait. There's beavers, there's craws, there's bugs, and there's creatures. Creatures kind of overlap in some of those. So, to be honest with you, a lot of people would hear creature and just think, brush hog. But a brush hog, in terms of action, is really only going to have the kicking tails. And yeah, this is the tiny brush hog. They do make it in 3 sizes, but the point that I want to make, Ron, is that once you step over to baits that kick a little bit more, the action changes, and you get a bit more of a swimming, a thump to them. So really, really like the Rage Menace grubs, the Rage Craw. I like some. This is the Baby Rage Craw. This bait has a very wide, flappy sort of swimming action, and I like that fine. But the Rage Bug is arguably my favorite, and it has a very similar action to this Kitech Crazy Flapper, and that is just a very aggressive kicking action, dude. So the Bandito Bug from Guggen Baits, I don't want to talk about Guggen Baits really, but I've just got one sitting here. So you get some action from these side appendages kicking, but most of the action comes from these tails kicking. So having a tail with a flange on it like this, where it's got that lip, creates a lot. It moves a lot more water when it kicks. So personally, that's my favorite. You can go to something a little bit more subtle. This is the Z-Man Turbo Craws, which is very similar to like the Speed Craw from Zoom. But once we get into that, we're not really talking creatures anymore. So again, I would go with a bug. I don't go anywhere without having a pack of the Rage Bugs on me, and usually in this chameleon color, which just works on kind of anything, anywhere. It's like a watermelon red on top and a more of a PB&J on bottom, and yeah, it's the deal. So with this bait, you really get the best of both worlds. You get some aggressive kicking action, but not too much. So the Rage Bug, in my opinion, dude, is the deal. But yeah, the Spicy Beaver is a really good one. It's just, in my opinion, the kickers on the Spicy Beaver are a little bit more lazy because of the way that they're weighted. So you can see the kickers on the Spicy Beaver are quite a bit wider. The flanges are still significant, but this thing kicks somewhere in between a Rage Craw and a Rage Bug, and in my opinion, it's got more of a lazy sort of kick to it than the Rage Bug. So again, I would probably throw this in a lot of the same situation that I would throw the Man Bear Pig. I would probably just be more likely to flip this and throw it on a jig trailer too. But I think this would be a killer bait on a swing head. So yeah, Spicy Beaver's a great bait though, and the colors that Reaction Innovations makes are really tough to beat. That color I just showed you, by the way, is called Blank Check. Ron says, I also like the Yamamoto Cowboy. That's one bait that I don't have much experience with really at all. I want to say I've thrown it like one time, and it's just a big, bulky bait, so I don't have a lot of confidence in it, don't know exactly where I would throw it, and I've got so many damn baits as it is that I really don't need a lot of new ones. Speaking of the Rage Craw, I rigged this guy up the other day. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to fish with it or not, but this Kitech swim jig is really pretty wild one. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen the design of this jig, but it is definitely different. It's a weedless swim jig with the weight keeled on the chin, and I think it's tungsten as well, but very different design there, and the skirt material is completely unique. I haven't seen that before, and the screw keeper is like an actual screw. So really interesting bait. I've had this swim jig for like a year or two, and not just a year. And I've only thrown it a couple of times. Didn't really know, most of the time when I'm throwing a swim jig, I want something with a head on it instead of just a chin. And I want something with more of a pointed head so it's going to come through grass better. So this is a swim jig that you're going to throw just in different situations where maybe you've got more of a rock bottom with sparse grass. Because you might get weeds hung up on this line tie, but you still have the benefits of the weedlessness here. So you want to be around some vegetation without it maybe getting on there too much. And that tungsten head, maybe you want to be bumping bottom a little bit. I don't know. All right, guys, any final questions here? I'm going to sign off in a couple of minutes. And yeah, I've got a lot of research to do. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm going to step up my YouTube game, just start posting quite a bit more frequently. I'd love your guys' input, especially those 6 of you sitting in here right now. What kind of videos do you want to see? Obviously, I've only been posting live streams and unboxings for the most part the last 6 months, but I'm going to do a lot more product reviews. I'm going to do a lot more how to rig and top knots and things like that. top baits for different scenarios, different seasons. And I'd love to know what kind of content you guys want to see, what kind of stuff you want to learn about, what you want to hear about. Of course, I can show you some baits underwater. I can show you close-ups of how to rig, kind of anything you want to see. Brian, can't find that chatterbait. Yeah, man. Telling you. I think I ruined that for them. And not for them, but for CFT, unfortunately. So I wish it wasn't that way. I don't think they hate me for it, but yeah, that was too bad. So it wasn't at the hookup, but it was CFT. And yeah, it's a good one, man. So appreciate you asking that question and just getting the wheels turning a little bit. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Lance, top water or bottom baits? Lance, is it on CFT? If it is, you guys should buy one right now. Lance, are you asking what my preference is between top and bottom? I would always go top water. I honestly sometimes wish that I could. Okay. Yeah, because Keisu, as I told you, they're putting out more baits. It's like OSP. There's other brands that are starting to kind of trickle into the U.S. market. So you can find Keisu's swim baits, other high-end stuff that they make, a few of their baits on CFT. And yeah, that Tranquil, it was there and then it wasn't there, and maybe it is back. So if you see it, get it. And hopefully me talking about it right now isn't enough to get me in trouble. I mean, come on. There's 7 people in here. This video is not going to get watched more than a couple hundred times, period. And we're an hour in. So, yeah. Bait and Switch wants to see product reviews, unboxings, underwater footage. Cool. Short clips of fish catches with them as well. You got it. Riley, what's up? We are just about to sign off here in a few minutes, but I'm asking for your guys' suggestions, your help in recommending content that you'd like me to make for you guys moving forward outside of these live streams, which I do plan to still do on, say, a weekly basis. Hang out with you guys once, if not twice. But I'm just letting you guys know I'm going to step up, start posting more regular content. Some will be short and sweet, kind of quick and dirty, intro, educational type of content, beginner bass fishing stuff, and some will be a little bit more advanced, kind of how-tos on certain techniques or how to rig things up. Of course, I'll always show you guys what it is that I'm buying that's new. I'll show you guys unboxings and baits up close, and I'm saying I could show you guys more underwater footage of lure action, and of course some fishing videos as well. But curious to know. We are all doing pretty well, Riley. So Lance, as for top or bottom, I'm going top, man. As I said, I wish I could live somewhere further south where I could fish topwater, more like a full 6 months out of the year or more. But quite honestly, here, topwater doesn't get kicking until May or June, and only stays good through, say, October. So we're talking like a 3-month window for topwater, quite honestly. And so we're in the middle of it right now, which is baller, and why you see me talking about topwater so much more, talking about ploppers, talking about rats, talking about bats. And I told you my weakness in the last couple of months has been topwater walking baits and kind of just stocking up. At the moment, I feel like I've got enough frogs, but I was really tempted to just scoop up another one of these frogs. and I still am. I haven't placed my order at Discount Tackle for the month yet, but guys, I will tell you right now, to those 9 of you in here right now, here's another little piece of info that you might want to know. So, Evergreen is a company, a JDM lure manufacturer that makes awesome baits, and you guys probably already know that by now. This is the Shower Blows Frog. They call it the SB, the soft shell. I forget what exactly they call it, but this is a frog that costs $16, and you can get it for like 12 or $13 on Discount Tackle's website. Almost everything Evergreen is a good deal on Discount Tackle. So it has this fur tail. It has this unique cupped mouth, just like the Shower Blows topwater walking baits do. So this thing will walk in place almost totally side to side. And that fur tail is going to do a lot for you. The hookup ratio on this frog is second to none. And the profile is relatively large as well. So I'm tempted to pick up another one of these frogs. So Lance, let's not make too much of a stink about it, but the reason is that it's a JDM bait, and it's not legal here in the U.S. Z-Man has a patent on the connection that is blade to head. Okay? There's a reason that almost all chatterbaits on the market that are not Z-Man are attached with a split ring or something like it. Okay? Everybody has had to find loopholes around that patent. You know, Booyah came out with this one, that the blade is built into the head. Everybody has literally danced around the patent as well as possible, but so many companies have gotten docked for it, and Z-Man has been very aggressive in defending their patent. So they still have that very strongly, and that bait we were just talking about violates that. So it's legal for them to make it and sell it in Japan, but not here in the U.S. So by them, exporting it, allowing CFT to import it and sell it here, they're breaking the rules. Hopefully that answers your question, Lance. I don't want to talk about it anymore because I don't want to get them in trouble anymore. So, as I was saying, frogs were kind of my weakness last year, just wanting to make sure that I was stocked up, was trying different things, and I still am to a certain extent, but now I've really got more of my favorites nailed down, and so there are some that I throw a lot more frequently than others, and I'm really trying to do the same with walking baits now. So just trying to expand my horizons. So of course, until recently, it was really like, the spook and the sexy dog were kind of the route that I went, and I didn't make a point to really step up my game to different styles and higher end walking baits until last year, really. And so I started that with like the River to Sea Rover, and then have just gradually had that evolve. I've got the Lucky Craft Gunfish and Sammy, and the Evergreen Shower Blows. Here's that walking bait that frog I just showed you is designed after. This is perhaps one of the most notorious walking baits on the market. The shower weighted cigar shaped walker. Like I showed you, this thing will walk almost in place, and killer bait, the Shower Blows. But it's like, while I'm on a roll, I can't help but but keep trying new things. This is the Yozuri 3DB, which has more of a one knocker in it. Great bait still. This is the new 6th Sense Catwalk, which has a very keeled belly and is apparently one that will walk and dive just barely subsurface. So instead of walking on top, as it walks, it's going to kind of go a few inches under the water and back up. And there are a bunch of others that I have in here too. And again, I'm just trying to learn the nuances in what makes one different or better than another. And so I've got a few more that I'm going to toss in my my order for this upcoming month. As you can see, I've got a giant Strike King Mega Dog there and a giant River to Sea Bubble Walker. I've got my eye on a couple other giant walking baits. It's a problem. So, any other questions, guys? We've been in here for pushing an hour and a half now, and it is super fun. I've enjoyed hanging out, but I don't necessarily have all night. So, if you guys have anything that you want to talk about right now, awesome. If not, no big deal. You know what I didn't notice until more recently, or maybe just now, is that this dark sleeper in the big size is actually really, there's a whole lot more soft plastic to this bait compared to the smaller sizes, which feel quite a bit differently to me. So, do you guys throw the dark sleeper much? So a super cool bait that was around for a while and then blew up for some reason just a year or two ago. And this is a finesse swim bait with a built-in weight. And so this is a hybrid swim bait and goby bait with a weed guard built in. This fin protects the hook fairly well. Dark Sleeper is realistic. It's got a killer swimming action, and you can fish it in a lot of different ways. Because it's weighted heavily, this thing sits very well on bottom. You can fish it like a jig. You can hop this thing off bottom, you can drag it, you can swim it slow and low, or you can fish it on a straight swim higher in the water column like you would a finesse swim bait. So Dark Sleeper, I would not call it a sleeper of a bait, but it's a good one for sure. It's just like $7 a bait though. Yes, Brian, you might have heard that from me. I have lost a couple of these because I was not cautious to check that. Some of these have the fins molded more tightly than others. And so like this one, look at that. Like this one would stick me every time. I will lose this bait for sure if I don't go ahead and tuck the hook into. So you can see right now, looking straight down the pipe, you can see that hook and that there's a gap, right? What I can do is just pull it forward like you would do in exposing any other bait. And then look, I've literally got it stuck in the fin there. And then it's not going to grab me nearly as much. So you can essentially expose this thing and it won't hang up nearly as much. So I've just learned over time that that's something that you kind of have to do. And if you don't, then unfortunately, yeah, you could just be throwing $6 or $7 down there to get lost very quickly. So that is one thing I don't love about it, is that it's a soft bait that can get ruined or get hung up pretty easily, and it's $6 or $7. So it does add up pretty quickly. But if you're fishing where you know there are fish and you're fishing rocky bottoms, where it's not super snaggy. There's something really killer about that bait. It just looks different. It looks more realistic to the fish. Quite honestly, the way that its posture is, you got to just trust that Megabass knows exactly what they're doing, man. Ron says, River to Sea Fat Matt Daddy. That is one that I don't have, but I keep hearing that if you're gonna go River to Sea, you might as well go with the Bullywah, with that Bullywah too. I don't have any River to Sea frogs, so I can't tell you, Ron, but between the Fat Matt Daddy and the Bullywah too, I would probably go with the Bullywah. Just when you look at the shape of the bait, the hookup ratio seems to be killer on it. It's got giant hooks. It reminds me a lot of the new, or I suppose I should say the new Z-Man frog reminds me of the Bullywah, in that it's got a really deep body and these massive hooks on them. So relative to other frogs, the hook is bigger. But I don't know about that Fat Matt Daddy. Sorry, man. Oh, lipless crankbaits. Haven't touched those in a while. That makes me think I need to go out and throw a trap around some grass. I get so into throwing a chatterbait this time of year over a lipless. In the spring, I really throw them kind of hand in hand, and I use the same rod most of the time for my lipless and my chatterbaits. And so during the spring, I'm going back and forth, especially because I think there's a lot of times where a lipless in cold water will outperform a chatterbait, especially because on that yo-yo retrieve where you can really let it rest on bottom. There's something about a rattle trap sound and vibration that gets them, a red lipless crank. But I've learned to kind of to translate that and fish chatterbaits the same way. So as you guys know, the fire craw and even the Heights hot craw, that darker red with green pumpkin, has been a killer color for me, fishing it the same way I would a lipless crankbait in the spring. You're right, Luke. Lipless crankbaits are awesome in the fall. That's why I was just saying I need to kind of remind myself, when fish are on bait in the fall, underspins and lipless crankbaits and topwater walking baits can be some of the best to throw. So, Lukewarm, thanks for jumping into the conversation, by the way, man. Guys, we are exactly at the 1.5 hour mark. There's one thing I want to show you guys, just because we've been a little bit random tonight, and this is something I've been working on this past week, and I'm going to continue to refine. But as you know, we have talked a lot about the good old Tokyo rig, right? I am a fan of it. Some people think it's a gimmick, or you don't need to buy the rig because you can make it yourself, and totally agree. Personally, I haven't wanted to make the rig myself, just with the wires and such. But this got me thinking recently. I recently saw something on. Oh no, I showed you guys that new product that I got from Tackle Warehouse, and these are brand new. This is the Decoy multi-sinker lock. Okay, so these are a peg that you put 2 of these pegs on your line, and you use a weight like this. It's a drop shot weight with a closed eye. see the middle of my forehead, that closed eye that you would tie a knot onto as a drop shot. Instead, you thread your line through here so the weight can slide up and down the line. So first, you can slide those sinkers up so that they are touching each other and the weight doesn't move at all. And it's all the way up next to your hook. That gives you a leaderless drop shot. Then what you can do is you can slide one of the sinkers up, and that will allow the weight to slide between the two pegs. And that is what they call the free rig in Japan. So you cast your bait out there, the weight falls to the bottom, and the bait trails weightless that last portion once the weight has hit the bottom. However far the bait is behind at that point, the remainder, it falls weightless. So really unique technique is the free rig, brand new in, I shouldn't say it's brand new, but it's super popular in Japan. It's newer here in the US. Nobody's really fishing it much. And then the other thing you can do is move both locks and the weight further down the line. And then what you have is a Carolina rig. So you've got your bait trailing a ways behind the bait. So you can convert with one weight, like a 3/16 ounce size like this, you can do a lot with. So from a leaderless drop shot to a free rig to a finesse Carolina rig, all with the same setup without having to re-rig, is awesome. So yeah, Ron, the Fat Mad Daddy has 5/0 hooks. Interesting. I wish I could give you a reason to go with one frog over the other, but like I said, I don't have experience with them, so I can't tell you. You're going to have to keep asking around. But so here's what I wanted to show you guys that got me thinking. And so I had some of these weights, the closed eye drop shot weights that I bought to fish the free rig more coming up this year. And what I decided to do was build my own, not Tokyo rig, but Jika rig. Are you guys familiar with the Jika rig? Owner makes a product called the Jig rig, and it's a split ring that is welded, so you can't change it, but it is this exact same rig. You've got swivel, a weight, and a hook. It's a leaderless drop shot, right? So this essentially is the same thing as a Tokyo rig, just without the wire leader. So you use a cylindrical weight like this, and there you've got half the distance of a traditional Tokyo rig. So pretty dang close to the same concept, just utilized a little bit differently. So what I did was build a number of these myself, and in my opinion, the benefit to using these is that, one, you can change out the weight. So I'll use a teardrop style one like this when fishing around rocks, and I will use a more cylindrical style when I'm fishing around more vegetation or grass, just in terms of the way that they come through those pieces of cover. So that's one thing, is you can change the style of weight. More importantly, you can change the hardware. The split rings and the swivel, you can really upgrade the quality. The hook, you can change. So instead of using a VMC hook, now I've got an owner, and this is an owner 1/0. So I'm going to throw like a Ned rig style bait on here. This, on the other hand, is a lighter wire owner 3/0. That's a 1/0. That's a 3/0. And so the last piece of the main reason I want to do this is that these are tungsten. So, they don't make a tungsten Tokyo rig, and I don't know that a lot of people are going to do that. Well, I guess they do, right? This is a tungsten Tokyo rig. I just use a tungsten bullet weight there. So on the flip side, one thing you can do is you can use varying levels of quality. So here I've got a really heavy duty swivel, a really heavy duty hook. I've got a decent split ring, but not the craziest. And I've got a lead weight, heavier. So this I'm going to use for flipping. I'm going to use this on heavier gear. So I want to make sure that the stuff is not going to come apart. And I like that I can use different hook styles here. I can use different weights. And then lastly, check this out. I have turned this into Decoy makes something called the Zero Dan Flash. The Zero Dan is what they call their Jika rig. So essentially, it is just a Jika rig, but then they've put a chatterbait blade on it, and so look at this. If I can, I don't know what happened to it. Come on, man, get through there. He's dilly-dallying. I don't know what happened here. Okay. So, look at that. Instead of a swivel, I put a chatterbait blade. As I told you, I don't love chatterbaits connected via split ring, but this is a pretty cool deal. So, got a must-add grip pin in a smaller 2/0 or 3/0 size. And then I've got the chatterbait blade running in front of this 1/4 ounce lead weight. So should be able to fish this in the middle of the column or down deeper. And I'm curious to see how that thing actually performs. So I've just built all of these Jika rigs this past week. You use a split ring and you load all 3 of these on. The hook does have to go on a specific way for it to be facing up, but pretty easy to get used to. So, yeah, you can buy these little dipsy closed eye lead drop shot weights. Super cheap. They're made by Water Gremlin. You get them at Walmart for like, a 10-pack for a couple bucks. But of course, tungsten closed eye drop shot weights are going to be a little bit more expensive. Buck or $1.50 a pop usually. All right. Sorry, let me catch up. Brian says, "What's your favorite spark shad color and size?" Size is more important than color for sure when it comes to the spark shad, but I love that bait so much, man. I think I'm gonna go 5-inch, just because it's so versatile. In the last year or so, I think this bait right here has gotten my attention more than any other swim bait. I would put this just ahead of the Kitech Swing Impact Fats in terms of quality, what you're getting here. So, at this 5-inch size, they come in a pack of 5, and you get a lot of realism. You get the eyes; those will come off if you don't put glue over the top of them. The bait itself is really soft and salty, but the shape of it is important, man. The fact that it's flat on top and rather keeled on bottom makes for a very stable bait in the water. This thing does not roll much, but it has a lot of kick to it. So it has a very similarly aggressive kicking action to a lot of these other swim baits on the market, but I think there's something just about the profile, the fins, and the eyes that get more bites, and it's got a really good scent to it as well. So the 5-inch Spark Shad is probably my favorite, just because I'm gonna have the most confidence to throw it as a standalone swim bait most of the time. I think the 4-inch is probably great too. I just don't have any myself. The 3-inch, sadly, I kind of pigeonhole into being a specialist for the screwhead technique. I don't know why, but it's like I feel like these go together, and it doesn't need to be that way. Like the 3-inch Spark Shad is a great small swim bait, but so is the Kitech 3.3, the 3.3 or 3.25 Rage Swimmer. So is the 3-inch Minnows by Z-Man. There are a lot of really good finesse swim baits. So I would say the Spark Shad in the 5-inch, because that 7-inch that I show you guys is a little too big for me to feel comfortable throwing on a day in and day out basis. There are specific bodies of water where I'm going to whip out the 7, and it is shaped differently. I'm not sure how well you can tell that, but the 7-inch Spark Shad, not only is it hard to find, like you're going to have to get it on CFT or somewhere JDM specific. They don't have the 7-inch on Tackle Warehouse. You do have to have hooks specifically to fit the 7-inch. But yeah, like I said, this is like a hybrid between the Mag Draft and the Spark Shad in terms of body style. You get the head and body more of the Mag Draft, and you get the tail of the Spark Shad. So I like the 7-inch a lot, but it's more specific. So the 5-inch is what I would throw day in and day out. Kind of like this 4.5-inch baby boom boom. Really like the Miyagi swimmer too, man. Lance says, "Oh, so best color too, Brian. I don't really have a favorite color in the Spark Shad. Honestly, I can't tell you that. The Wakasagi, or Real, they call it, is perhaps my favorite. Just a pinkish, natural baitfish looking color. I think that's the one that I showed you in the 5-inch. Lance, what's the best way to keep trailer hooks on? I didn't have a plan when I came in here, Ron. I apologize, man. Kate Stevens, what's up, bro? What's the best thing to throw for hybrid? What does that mean, Kate? Hybrid bass? You catching hybrids, dude? Honestly, I don't really at all. Where you living, Kate? I forget. Remind me. I think you won one of my giveaways before, and I've definitely seen your page on Instagram, but I can't remember. OKC. All right, interesting. Now, man, I don't know in terms of hybrid. They're a little bit smaller than largemouth, aren't they? If I were you, I'd throw reaction baits. I'd throw crankbaits, chatterbaits, and spinnerbaits first. Just cover water, see if you can get some bites, dude. I would not slow down unless you're on a school of them. But To be honest, I can't tell you. I wish I could. Okay, guys, any other questions? We've been on almost 2 hours, and I'm going to dip in a minute here. Riley, I was telling everybody how I was smacking him on this Maverick Chapo 90 that you sent me. Will Perriman, what's up, dude? Happy weekend to you as well. Hope you're doing well. I don't know if you've been hanging out in here or if you just jumped in like Riley did, but yeah. I got to get out and throw this thing, Will. I keep looking at it, man. It's a gorgeous looking bait. I'll just be honest, I haven't been throwing a lot of mega big baits this summer, and I need to. Given that this thing's a floater, and I've had so much luck on the freaking rats this year and the bats, I need to throw this thing. I think it's going to get bit, and it's gorgeous too. All right. I feel like there was something else that I wanted to tell you guys that is just escaping me at the moment, but yeah, I don't know if Darren's still in here, but here's an example of that underspin blade that I was telling you guys about. Yeah, this is just a standard Strike King swim jig, nothing fancy. Got a Kitech 3.8 trailer on the back of that. Also not that fancy, but really juice it up by adding this little Pro Point Lures underspin blade. Turn this thing into pretty unique spinner bait, and you'd be surprised how much a swim jig gets bit more than a swim bait, and how much an underspin helps to get a few more bites too. So swim jig with an underspin is kind of what I really like to throw, more so than a spinner bait, even though they're very, very similar. I want to start throwing this bait more, but just haven't made a point to. That's the 13 fishing BAS badass mofo shad, I suppose. Will says he just got here. It's cool. Haven't been able to go for a couple weeks, but I thought you'd appreciate that color in the Ninja. Man, sorry to hear that you haven't been able to go for a couple weeks. Why didn't you make it out last week on the full moon? I thought you definitely would have. Cade caught an 8-pound channel cat the other day. Dang, dude, that's pretty beastly. What'd you catch him on? I don't fish for catfish, but how'd you land him, bro? Or how'd you hook him? What'd you get him on? Y'all seen the Strike King Ned cutter worm? What do you think about this bait? You know what's confusing to me about this bait is the way that they laminate it. So if you can tell, this is a two-tone bait, darker, lighter. Okay, so I am looking at it with the clear on bottom. The tail is sideways. Okay, if the tail was up, it's laminated side to side, not top and bottom. So is that a mistake by bait companies, or did they intend for you to rig it with or on its side? You tell me, how is that bait supposed to be rigged? Will, congratulations. That is exciting and also freaky. I hope she's being safe. I hope everything goes well. But that's exciting times for you, man. I would not say it's the most exciting time to be starting out your freshman year of college during COVID. That's brutal, but I really hope that she has a good experience and a good start to college. That's exciting times. So, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up there, if you don't mind. Oh, I just missed a couple of things. I'm sorry. Cade says, where do you get your big swim baits? I get them from a variety of places. So it depends on the bait. I like to shop around. I like to get a good deal, and so it depends. I'm not necessarily loyal to any one retailer, even Discount Tackle, who I work with very closely and am helping start up their own YouTube channel, which is going to be awesome, by the way. But no, man, I buy some of them there. I buy some on Tackle Warehouse. I get some on Carolina Fishing Tackle or the Hookup Tackle. And there are even some one-off sites that I definitely shop on as well. So if you have any questions about specific big swim baits and where you maybe ought to consider buying them, just let me know. Brian says, hey, I'm going to place an order. Was wondering if I could email you what I think. Of course, Brian. Yeah, man. Shoot me an email. Let me know what's on your list. I'll let you know if you ought to not purchase any of those, or if there's anything like it that I would recommend instead. But of course, please do. I'd be more than happy to weigh in. Okay, Will, I'm glad to hear that, man, that they've got a good protocol going. But I have heard very mixed things here locally and just nationally, hearing about the way that schools are handling things. And, even though a lot of these schools are taking it seriously in the way that kids are rooming on campus or not, and the way that they're attending classes in smaller groups. In general, I like it, but I mean, you can't stop kids from socializing, man. It's inevitable. It's going to be brutal here in the next month or two. Things are going to spike like crazy. So, all right, guys, that is going to do it for tonight's video. Super fun hanging out with you guys for a little. Hope you're doing well this weekend and these times. Life is weird. The weather is hot. It's the middle of the summer. Go out and try and catch some summer fish if you can. Nighttime, early morning is the best time to catch them. I will tell you that much. Will knows all about that. So I hope you guys have a chance to get out soon. Same should be the case for me. I'm actually headed up to the mountains here in Colorado, Granby to be specific. My family's got a little piece of property up there on the Colorado River, and I am going to do some fly fishing for trout, and should be a ball of a time. So I'll be up there Monday night through Thursday afternoon, and yeah, I might even do a little live stream, show you guys some of that stuff up there if I can get some service. So we'll see how that goes. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I have no doubt that your daughter is a super smart lady, and will be cautious and do the right thing. Well, so I'll take my fly rod. I will be fly fishing the majority of the time that I'm up there. I will bring my ultralight setups as well, but like I said, it is private water, and these guys are fly fishermen, not spin fishermen. So if I get caught using a spinning rod on this property, I might be given a very hard time. So appreciate you, Cade. Thank you, Will, Brian, everybody in here. There's 17 thumbs up, and I appreciate you guys very much. I will see you again soon. Have a good one. Cheers, guys.